Hey everyone, my name is Wes, and welcome back to another episode of Terror Talk where I discuss creepy clips online. I created this original horror music to add to the video, and I hope you enjoy it. Be sure to leave your own comments, and when you're done watching, check the description if you'd like to listen to my music without the commentary. Now let's get into it and have some fun.
I work at a data center. It's at a small warehouse slash office place. My job is to just stare at a monitor and make sure all the systems stay online. If anything goes down, I head to the operating rooms to usually just give it a quick restart. It's a really simple and easy job. And because it's overnight and just me, I can really do whatever I want.
That kind of job sounds like it would be pretty painful, wouldn't it? Just staring at monitors all day. But I mean, on the other hand, you could, I don't know, you could watch videos, you could listen to music, you could read, you could do all that sort of stuff as long as you kept an eye on the monitors. But man, no social interaction too. That would be kind of boring, and there's absolutely no creativity in this kind of job. But let me know if you have any creepy stories related to overnight jobs that you've done in the past, because I love hearing other people's stories about different things, especially if they're scary.
So long as I'm constantly checking the status of all the systems. Although I'm sure you can tell just how boring it can get sometimes. By the time this happened, I'd already seriously considered quitting several times, but forced myself to stick with it. Anyway, this night I drove over to the office at my usual 10 p.m. The building was at the end of a long road and backed up to trees, so there were never any cars or people in the area. I parked and headed up to the office. This week, I had a show on Netflix that I'd been binging for my entire shifts. So, after giving the computers a few checks, I immediately set up my laptop and started watching my show.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, going back to what I said before, the more I think about it, the more that is a pretty sweet gig. Just being able to binge your favorite shows like that on the job, that would be actually pretty sweet.
For reference, there's usually no trips in any of the systems during my shift. Since it's overnight, there's less of a load on everything, so it's less likely anything will happen. I'd say maybe twice a week there would be an outage, and it'd only be a single system that I can quickly just restart and get working again. I think I got through just about two episodes of my show, so it was about 2 hours in when I saw a notification pop up on the monitor. One of the systems lost connection. I paused the show and got up. I walked downstairs and through multiple corridors until I got to the huge storage room that was the main hub of the data center. There were massive rows of shelves all throughout the room. The notification I got had a row and section number. I walked down the aisle and over to the correct section. It happened to be the very last row and the section on the far corner. And strangely, it was really obvious why it was down. The main power cable wasn't plugged in. It was laying on the ground, like it had been pulled on or fallen out somehow. I really didn't know how that was possible. In all my years of having the job, I'd never seen a heavy duty cable randomly fall out like that. It just doesn't happen. Regardless, though, of however it happened, I plugged it back in and booted up the system. Everything came back online and seemed to be working properly. The obvious and really only answer to fall back on was that it did somehow just wiggle out of the sockets. Maybe over time it slowly shook out, and it just so happened to fall out tonight. I did a quick walkthrough of the rest of the aisles, checking for anything else while I was down there. Then I started heading back through all the corridors and back to the office. As I was in one of the corridors, I heard an unfamiliar sound. It was almost like a heavy door thumping closed in a doorway. It was a little creepy sounding, especially with there being no other sounds in the entire building. Unfortunately, I didn't really know the rest of the layout of the warehouse, so if it actually was a door, I had no way of knowing which door or where at.
Yeah, that's the thing about working in these kind of warehouses late at night. When creepy things happen, it's really creepy. And I don't find it to be a coincidence that that cable got unplugged like that, and now they're hearing all these weird sounds in the hallway. I would be pretty spooked out, wouldn't you? What would you do in this type of situation? Let me know in the comments below.
And although it sounded like a door, it very well could have been anything else. This was a massive warehouse, and often the metal pipes would bend and creak in the walls, or make similar thump sounds. It was just that exact sound I hadn't heard before. I made my way back to the room and sat down. I double checked the systems again, then continued my show. Only a few minutes passed by, and I'd barely even gotten through one scene before I heard what sounded like a couple of fast paced footsteps scurrying through the corridor next to me. It gave me a quick jump scare, but I got up and opened the door, looking down the hallway. There was nothing there, just an empty corridor with a door on the far end. But it sounded like it was just outside of the office I was in. I knew I wouldn't be able to keep my mind off of it if I didn't take a look around. I walked toward the end and opened the door. When I did and looked down the next hallway, I barely saw the door on the other end closing, like someone had just went through it. My heart was pounding now. I cautiously walked further up and opened the door. This one led to a hallway with multiple office doors in it. Is someone in here? Hello?
Yeah, at this point, I would be getting really freaked out because they clearly heard footsteps and they just ran through the hallway to the other side of the eh, to the other side of the hallway. And I feel like at this point, I would feel like I'm being stalked. Wouldn't you? Because that's honestly what it's feeling like at this point, and it's like, what does the person want? And in this type of situation, your life does feel like it starts to feel like you're in danger, honestly. So yeah, I mean, this would be a really unsettling situation to find yourself in.
My voice echoed through the corridor. I took a few steps inside. It was eerily quiet, not the slightest sound throughout the building. Were they hiding in one of these office rooms? As that thought creeped into my head, I got really unsettled and decided not to go any further down that hallway. I took one step back toward the door, but just when I did, one of the office doors next to me swung open. I only caught a glimpse of a man running out of the unlit room before I turned and booked it out of there. I could hear his footsteps echo behind me as I made it to the next corridor and into the staircase. I didn't want to risk getting trapped, so I took the fire exit door and just ran out into the parking lot. Once I got closer to my car, I started calling the police. Whoever was in there didn't chase me out the same exit, though. The cops made it pretty quick and did an extensive search of the entire building, which took nearly half an hour. But the guy was gone, probably ran out a different exit and into the woods behind the building. Him being in there explained a lot, though. The wire that had been disconnected earlier in the night was on the corner section, which the man probably bumped into while sneaking around. The company I worked for did a huge investigation to review security footage and try to figure out how he got in and if he stole anything. I didn't get much information on it, however, because I'm not authorized. I think it's pretty clear that whatever he was in there for, he likely didn't want me to know and was probably planning to prevent me from blowing his cover. How he would have done that after leading me through the corridors, I'm fortunate enough to not know.
Yeah, this is definitely a creepy situation to find yourself in. And I don't know, night shift workplaces can get really spooky sometimes. And you just have to be careful when you notice that certain things are off. Like if you feel that certain things are off where you're working late at night, like don't dismiss it. And if your spidey senses are tingling, they're probably tingling for a reason. And you should take that seriously and not dismiss it and plan accordingly to whatever is happening in that instance. So, yeah, I mean, definitely things can happen like this, and it is unsettling for sure. But I thought this was a creepy story. And how would you have reacted? Let me know in the comments below how you would have reacted to this type of situation. But I enjoyed this story, and I hope you enjoyed my music and the commentary. And I will see you in the next video.